Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
5 Points is one of those games I wish was just published by a different company. Now, The Gangs of New York is one of my favorite movies, and while this is not an IP-driven game, I mean, this is an IP-driven game. It really is The Gangs of New York on your board gaming table with really shoddy, bad components with oddly used colors. This is one of the ugliest games you will ever see, and it's so ugly and the components are so bad it makes me not want to play the game. And you're going to say, hey, that's a pretty shallow experience. Yes, this is a very, very good area control game. Now, area control games is not a genre that we like very much, to be honest. The whole fighting and nitpicking over little spaces, we don't prefer that. My wife doesn't like area control at all, and I'm not a big fan. I don't mind having some ones that are really, really good, that look great, maybe has an aspect of area control like I like Smash Up, but area control games are one of those things that I just don't need a lot of. So I'm already telling you in my collection, which what this series is about which games I kept in my collection and which ones I got rid of and why it may fit into your collection and why it may not. This is one of those things where this is a solid game. If you don't care how a game looks or by some random chance you like the way this game looks, this is a top area control game for you to seek out. For me personally, it is so ugly I can't get to the table. I love the theme. I love the theme. I like the game because for area control games, it's really, really good, but I don't tend to like those as much as others, just cards on the table. But the ugliness of this game just keeps it off the table. It just looks terrible. And the components are shoddy. It doesn't bring you into it. And it's really mean and cutthroat. And to be honest, I'd go towards Tammany Hall over this one. And that's where I fall with this one. It's like it's a good area control, but I don't need it and Tammany Hall. And Tammany Hall would be the game that I would choose over this one. Hands down, they're both excellent games. Tammany Hall looks better. It fits the niche. It fits what I'm looking for. It does this very well. I would have preferred this one. I would have preferred this one to look better, but I have to judge them on its package. And it's just that. Now, as for the game itself, it has some bidding in it. It's got some area control. There's some interesting things going on about which neighborhoods are going to trigger and have that vote on it and how you can manipulate those votes. Do you put money over, or do you put your in-game currency over here, which are the cubes, in order to get enough things to influence the election versus just gathering the votes? And all the little cubes represent different nationalities or races of people, I suppose, that was voting at the time, you know, the Italians, etc. And how did they influence the vote? And that's really cool. There's a little bit of history that could come out in this. It's just so darn ugly, and I didn't need it in Tammany Hall, so this is going to be a purge. Here's 5 Points, Gangs of New York. You're going to see this is like almost straight from the movie, although they had to change. There's the butcher, right? I mean, it'd be kind of obvious here. You're going to have a rulebook, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. And then you're going to see a mess of components that really are not that nice. You're going to have some cubes, generic cubes that you have in this game. You're going to have some generic tiles that will pop up. Some very bland city tiles of these generic colors that are, you know, this just does not look good at all. Little small chits that are way too small for anything that's usable. I mean, the components really, really let this game down. This is probably the standing thing where you have these little boards in front of you and they have player aids. These are nice, but the artwork, ugh. And the game is much better than these components. These components are just blah to me. This is not a custom insert for this game. It's a custom insert, but not for this game. Here's the rule book. It's okay. It's got a picture of the components, which are blah. I wouldn't be bragging about those. Very small print. You got some pictures. You got different setup. You do have some examples in here, but it's organized well. I think you'll have a fine time reading it, and it's not very long. Here's an example of setup of 4-player. Why it's not with a setup, I don't know. But so if you went through the whole rulebook, you're like, here it is, and you got some variants on the end. Rulebook is fine. The tiles are explained at the back. It's an okay book. I wish the font was a little bit bigger. It does have pictures. A couple extra pages may have helped this rulebook out quite a bit. So each player's going to get 9 rabble and 5 bosses in our color. There's extras, but they won't get them right away. You're going to take a red, yellow, blue, and green to ensure that every game has at least one. And based on number of players, you're going to have more of these. So I did a 3-player game of 7. Then everybody takes 3 of their cubes of their 9, and you place one randomly out on each building or each neighborhood without a building. And you put these out on the board. So everything will either have a building on it, or it will have a cube from a random person, and that just kind of seeds the board as you're starting up. So the game will end in one of 3 ways. If there's at least a boss in every city neighborhood, the game will end. All control markers of a certain color are taken, or a player has put all 5 of their bosses out on the board. So if you get all 5 of it, the game will end also. At that point, if you place all 5 bosses, you win the game immediately. The round, nothing else matters. If it begins because of control markers or everyone has a boss, then you'll score victory points. Each boss is worth 5. Each control marker is worth 2. And then VPs that you may earn during the game. Whoever has the most victory points will be your winner. You'll play a number of rounds until the game ends, but each round has 3 phases in it. The first phase is called the placement phase. So what you're going to do now in the placement phase is you're going to take this rabble and put it out on the board or on these manipulation markers that are over here. Now, everybody will continue to do this until there's only one person left. And what you can do is you can put one in an area on the board, or you can do it on these manipulation markers, which we'll come back to in a minute. And players will take turns doing this as they continue through the game. And these are things that you can do just to add up if you'd like to, etc. And you'll be filling the board up and filling up these manipulation markers with a number of these. Now, the trick to passing is based on when you pass, you're going to get more rabble to use in next turn. So the earlier passers will get more of these. If you stay in the game longer and do more stuff, you may get less to add to your reserve for next turn. So theoretically, it's a catch-up mechanism. You won't be able to do as much next time. Or it could be a strategic thing that I would do more this turn, then maybe less next turn. After everybody's passes, everybody will also get 2 rabble. So you'll get something plus your bonuses that you have. Very easy. Whoever has the most here would get to utilize the power of the manipulation token. Same thing with this one, and you go through each of these. Now, each of the buildings also will have a special function if you're on these buildings. And if you have the most here, let's say green had 2 and red had 1, then you get to use the power of the building. So these can be good places to fight over as you're going through the board. And the last phase is the election phase. Well, a boss will get elected at least in each neighborhood. Now, whatever location has the most rabble will then be voted on. In this case, it'll be this one. It's 1, 2, 3. This one has 2, 2, 2. Rest have 1. If you're the winner, in this case, green has the most, he will put a boss out on that location. All of this rabble that was there will go back to the boroughs, not the headquarters, and go back into the reserve, and now he has a boss there. Remember, the boss is worth victory points at the end of the game. Now, if you own orthogonally adjacent areas like this one over here, then you will get control markers for that, and you can score additional victory points for being in that location. And that's a general overview of how the game will work. Each round, you'll be deciding where you want to put things out. Maybe you want to trigger these manipulation things over here that can give you powers. There'll be fierce voting over here for the buildings that can give you powers. And then it's just area control to score as many victory points as possible. And that's just a quick overview of what you're doing. The game can be extremely nasty. It has a lot of head-to-head competition, but that's what you're going to be going for. Who should buy this game? Anybody who wants substance over style. If you're somebody who says, oh, I don't care what a game looks like. It can be 2 pieces of paper, I have a notebook, but if it's good, I want to play it. This is a game for you because it's ugly. But it is a really fine piece of gaming. Now, I've said this earlier, I'd rather play Tammany Hall just for the fact that it's a better package than this one. I think that's why Tammany Hall lives on. I believe it came out first, and this is very similar. So that one is the big name, the big components, but this game is really solid and really good. I like the historical nature of it, if you're into that. If you want to see this time period, how the votes were manipulated, how people were gathering votes in the neighborhoods, this will definitely sort that out for you. This is definitely a gamer's game. This is not something you would play if you're not into games. You need somebody to hold your hand through it a little bit. There's a lot of things going on in it. Excellent game. No, take that back. Very good game. Really, really bad components. I'd love to see this republished by a legitimate company who wants to put a little effort into the components. I would definitely take another look at it. As for now, I'm going to keep Tammany Hall. I'm going to purge this one.